Today's video is sponsored by Manscapes.com. Silence! Bring back my 90-minute with ads episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race. Hi, Ugly. It's me, Bus King, and welcome back to Hats or Rat. And today we'll be reviewing episode 11 of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15. Today our queens are split into comedy duos to tell some jokes, stand-up style. And the runway category was Rip Her to Shreds. So we'll be breaking down each queen's performance in the episode as I saw it, as well as covering some of the tea bubbling up online concerning the Voguing mini challenge, and Anetra, Aja, and Legendary's very own Gravity Jacobs from season 1. I'm so into Voguing right now. Plus we'll be taking a look at what Salina really wanted to say about her runway this week and why she couldn't say what she wanted to say, allegedly. And we've got a lot to cover today, so buckle up because we'll be death dropping it like it's hot. But you know it's not hot. Nose and ear hairs sticking out of your nose and ear holes. Ew! Well, lucky for you, the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped, has just the solution for your face hole spring cleaning needs. It's truly my honor to present to you the all-new premium Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and ear hair trimmer. This bad boy's got a 7,000 RPM motor with an improved steel blade system. Plus, it's equipped with skin-safe technology to help reduce nicks, snags, and tugs. And it's of course cordless and rechargeable with a 45-minute battery runtime. And you can get the Weed Whacker 2.0 as part of Manscaped's Platinum package, which includes my favorite grooming product of all time, the Lawnmower 4.0. Their waterproof body hair trimmer that you can use in the shower, making cleanup a breeze. Plus you'll get the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, Ball Toner Spray, Body Wash, 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, aluminum-free deodorant, boxer briefs, and Shed travel bag. And Manscaped's partnered with me to bring you a special deal. Get 20% off your order plus free international shipping when you use code Bussy at checkout. Spring into an all-new grooming routine. Just click the link in the description of my video to shop manscaped.com/Bussy and get 20% off your order plus free international shipping. Thanks Manscaped for sponsoring today's video and keeping my face holes fresh. Now, let's get into the hairy details of the drama. In today's mini challenge, the queens were asked to serve a little face in homage to the Harlem ballroom scene of New York City in the 70s and 80s. Which isn't to say ballroom isn't still alive and well, but if you wanted to learn more about the topic or just see a really great documentary on the subject, check out Paris is Burning. Anyways, Anetra wins this mini challenge, and overall I'd say it was a fun and enjoyable segment of the show. But Gravity Jacobs, who's from the winning house on Legendary season 1, thought otherwise. And Gravity wrote this on Instagram: "Call me a hater all you want, but the quote Voguing mini challenge in tomorrow's Drag Race episode is probably the most egregious and blatant example of the show's unrelenting efforts to bastardize and make a mockery of Vogue and ballroom, from terminology to technique to framing. It's incredibly disheartening that, despite several mainstream and modern depictions of ballroom coming out, RuPaul's Drag Race remains committed to active misinformation and historicization of the scene." And Aja seems to agree with this sentiment. She wrote a comment in reply to this post saying, "I shut my ass up because I got so much for speaking, so I ain't gonna say none." She there is referring to when earlier in this season she criticized Anetra's talent show performance, where after a bit of drama between the two, she ultimately wrote a final message on Twitter that read, "I'm gonna leave it at this. Anetra's number was indeed very entertaining. I hope she takes some voguing classes and immerses herself into the community and continues to build on her interest in ballroom. She's very welcome to. Nobody said she wasn't. I'm gonna eat my special K and STFU." And this criticism of Anetra by Aja continued later in the season when she referred to Anetra's dip and the lip sync Lollapalooza as crusty, where Shea Coulee added, "Girl, leave Anetra alone." And Aja added, "Oh god, here we go again." However, Aja's opinion on Anetra's performance in this mini challenge seems to be a little bit different from what she originally thought of Anetra's earlier voguing. On Twitter, she wrote, "If they don't give Anetra that trophy, they're playing because she's the only one who landed a dip. The spin was cute, the rest of the challenge was wild, and Salina falling went crazy too, LMFAO. Overall, y'all know I think the challenge was in poor taste, but it is what it is." And I'm certainly not here to be an expert on or the arbiter of what is and isn't good voguing or a good representation of ballroom culture. I'm just here to report the news. But I will say, I think everything that ends up on mainstream TV is ultimately a distillation of its truest form, even drag. Like, drag once was a punk art form of the underground freaks and weirdos made by and for the other freaks and queer weirdos. And I say that with only a heart of admiration and love for all of the freaks and queerdos of, yesterday that trailblazed the way for us to have things like RuPaul's Drag Race today. And yes, one of those trailblazers was indeed RuPaul, who now exists at the intersection of trailblazer and distillation of an art form. Ultimately though, even if Drag Race and its contestants don't actually get the art of ballroom and voguing correct in the most historically accurate way, I do think it's a net positive for the show to feature other underground cultures, at least as a jumping off point for the audience to learn more about it and do their own research. But I'd of course love to know what y'all think about all this down below. But that's enough tea for now. Let's move on to Marcia, who in the challenge was originally paired with Mistress, but ends up performing solo because of Salina's decision to steal Mistress as her partner, who earned that ability because she was the only queen to select a sparkling water flavor that didn't have a pair in the group. And not only does Marcia have to do her comedy set as the only solo performer tonight, but she also opens the show, as selected by Anetra. And this felt a little shady to me from Anetra, because not only is it a big ask for someone to open a comedy set, but an even bigger ask for them to do so as the only solo performer in the group. But for as much as her edit, I think, wanted to portray her as doing bad during her set, I don't think she did. Her set starts off with a bit about comparing puberty to her time on Drag Race, and how she's kind of going through this metamorphosis, gaining new body and makeup skills. And while some of that, like the body part, I don't think necessarily translated as funny, I do think there were some great gems in there, like when she asked the audience, "Where were you when you realized your entire hometown was lying to you?" I was on television. And later we even see T.S. Madison cracking up when she calls her Ursula the Sea Witch. And sure, the joke about Ross and Carson acting in Die Hard didn't really land, but overall I think her set was balanced with positive and negative. And considering what was asked of her in this challenge, I would actually give her a soft hot. Over on the runway though, I think she was a little lost in translation or explanation. She's wearing this Miss NYC sash and has eyeliner streaming down her face, and is giving a nod to the shreds brief, I think, with like the scratches in the middle of her dress and the shreds at the bottom. And all of this is evidently supposed to represent, as she explains in her confessional, her winning a pageant, but the other contestants not liking that she was the winner, and so they attacked her? And I'm sitting there listening to Marcia explain all this like, okay girl. And I'm thinking, like, you know what I love about Marcia is that she can explain anything and everything. And that is the mark of a true pageant queen. But the tea is, I really wouldn't have got everything she was saying about the look just from seeing it on the runway. Like, I was thinking this was just like a sad prom queen runner-up situation and not all of what she said. This is still gonna be like a soft rot for me, but I will also comment, I think Michelle's critique on this look was a little out of pocket. She brought up that Loosey did this look a couple of weeks ago, and Marcia should have been crafty enough to change her entire runway look because of a look that Loosey actually wore on the runway. And considering the tight filming schedule that these queens are on, and like also her being tasked with opening the comedy set as the only solo performer of the entire cast in this episode, I don't know, that feels like a really big ask from Michelle. And next up, LaDuca. So Loosey in this episode is paired with Luxx, and this was interesting considering that they did have a bit of drama at the beginning of this episode concerning Loosey's Beyonce look from last week's runway. Luxx was correctly, by the way, questioning why Loosey wasn't showing her pregnant belly in the look, and Loosey was incorrectly asserting that Beyonce wasn't showing at all, so she didn't need to be showing in her runway. I don't know, the delusion and confusion of LaDuca continues. But yeah, these two start the episode in a fight and then end up as pairs in the challenge. Coincidence or conspiracy? We may never know. In their set, they do this bit where Loosey is the butt of the like white jokes that they're telling back and forth. And Loosey got some great jokes in her set, like about whitening her teeth until they all fall out and poking fun of Luxx's fan in the audience. And overall in this duo, I would say Loosey was a little funnier, but somehow less enjoyable. Like joke for joke, she had a larger quantity of jokes and I think bigger impact on the audience in terms of laughter. But with all of that confidence that she's carrying in this set, it almost read as a little like teacher's pet or something. Like there was just this intensity about her when compared with Luxx on the stage that felt almost uncomfortable at some points. But no delusion about it, she certainly was hilarious in the set, and I definitely think she deserves a high. Here, just hope she makes it to her lobotomy. And over on the runway, she's giving us a little spooky LaDuca. A little Victorian Nosferatu glampire for your nerves. And this look I liked and didn't. She finally is leaning deeper into those horror roots and references that she loves, and is pushing the edge a bit with her actual drag in terms of her makeup and not just trying to be pretty. But there's something about the actual fashion of this look that I just wasn't a huge fan of. I want a bigger lager train and bustle, and I want that little corset and front skirt part to be cut a little differently. It almost looked like from the front that she was wearing like a little doll's costume. It was just all not quite enough compared, I think, with like the proportion of the size of the hair she was wearing. And for the brief, while this was, I think, a creative interpretation, I don't think it totally made sense for shreds. Like, it almost was a little swampy with the way the lace on the bottom of her outfit was like cross-hatched. You know, like one of those camouflaged net things that you see in cartoons. I'm gonna leave this with like a really soft rat. And next up, Luxx, Noir, London, who in the challenge, as I mentioned, was Loosey's partner. And as we saw in the workroom, it was evidently Luxx's idea for them to do this roasty bit between themselves, which I think was a really great idea because it was probably the only way that a comedy set between these two queens with each very large egos would have worked. And Luxx was funny. I think her delivery and timing were good, especially considering she's never done comedy. But where she succeeded even more, I think, was in the charisma department. She looked so natural and effortless on stage, and beautiful, I might add. Oh my god, that hair! But watching these two go back and forth was really enjoyable because it almost felt like it was a battle between the young ingenue and the seasoned pro of the industry. And yes, Loosey did tell, I think, the majority of jokes in their set, but somehow I still enjoyed Luxx more. Plus, the concept of the bit was, after all, her idea. Luxx has got a sugar daddy, and that's hot. And by the way, if you're new here, the little icons that you're seeing on the queen's gifts on the side are actually icons of my patrons who have voted for these runways or challenges in my weekly Hottest Hot polls. And you too can vote on my Hottest Hot polls every single week over at patreon.com/bussyqueen. That's my members only website where my patrons get exclusive access to content, early access to my YouTube videos, and access to the Bussy Queen Discord server. And you can join by clicking the link in the description of my video. See you there. And over on the runway, another home run for Luxx tonight. She is here giving an homage to RuPaul's 1986 look from the band that she was in called Pole. What did I say earlier in the video? RuPaul was a trailblazer of the freaks and queerdos in the underground scene. Exhibit A. And fun fact, there are several clips of Ru performing in this band on YouTube that you can watch, and I've linked those in the description of this video. But I want to highlight here what Luxx did, I think, was a great homage to Mother and also a great fashion moment for herself. Like what Luxx did here, I think is a great example of how you do a reference and kiss a little ass, if you will, because she took the original source material and then adapted it into her own interpretation, making it a little more chic and fashion forward with the speltness of the bottom and the legs. My one critique on this look is really more related to where it was presented. I think with the harshness of the runway lights and the all white color of the shredded tassels on the shoulders, she could have layered in some different colors to add texture, which would have helped everyone, I think, see the shred and tassel pieces a little bit clearer on television. But that's really more of a technical critique and not necessarily a fashion critique. Luxx, this look is absolutely hot. And next up, our professional duck walker, Anetra. So she wins the Voguing mini challenge and then gets to decide the order of everybody in the comedy set. Shortly after, though, it's revealed she has a splitting migraine that's preventing her from brainstorming and coming up with ideas. And her flopping in this challenge, I'll say, really surprised me. Something about her being that quiet, confident queen, I kind of expected her to be secretly also really funny and good at stand-up. And I think maybe there's an alternate universe where she was, but somehow this migraine combined with the onslaught of negativity given to her by Ali Wong and Michelle in the rehearsals maybe contributed to her downfall. Anyways, in the actual set, the flopping continues. She and Sasha ended up going for this green leaf lover girl type of vibe. You know, if it ain't green, I'm not interested, mom. But I don't even understand why they went this route. Like, queens have gone this route and failed before. See Laganja. And like, they even referenced Laganja by name in the set. It just wasn't clear that they, I think, were trying to make a joke at Laganja's expense, and instead they ended up recreating some of the things that made her set so bad to begin with. So, I don't know. This was a And over on the runway, she comes out in a ripped to shreds black and pink catsuit, which I actually thought she was gonna say was intended to be a recreation of RuPaul Season 6 promo look. But intended to be a recreation or not, this wasn't my favorite look tonight. I do like the dramatic silhouette she created with the shoulder and the headpiece. It's very draggy and fun, and I think this would be an excellent dance costume for a club performance. But on the stage lights with the camera zooming in so close, some of the details of the look I think just don't fully come together. Instead of the shred pieces looking intentional and carefully placed, they look a little messy. And the bedazzled jewel placement seems a little unintentional and chaotic. Like there just weren't enough jewels in the right places. Had there, for example, under the shreds been different densities of like pink crystals throughout the cuts, I think this would have been really cool. But as is, I'm getting Trey didn't like the session. So I'm gonna give this look a warming because hey, the judges are right. She does give it to you every time on the runway. And next up, the legend, the icon, the only contestant with 3 challenge wins, Sasha Colby, who in the challenge I have the same critiques for that I gave to Anetra, with of course the saving grace of Michelle Visage's balls, Eureka and Latrice. By the way, does anybody else watch Curtis Connor videos and every time they hear the word balls, the only thing they can think of is that Bratz doll movie where the character is like, balls?
Balls?
Like when she told that joke about Michelle Visage's balls, I was like, why didn't she just do a normal comedy set with Anetra? Like, why did they even bother doing this huge, crazy, convoluted, green leaf loving girl bit? It didn't make any sense. But also, maybe there was a lot more to their set that we didn't see, because it was a little weird to me, I thought, at the end of the set, how it basically went to only Sasha telling jokes. Like, did they maybe cut out some of Anetra's jokes to better frame why Anetra should be in the bottom and Sasha shouldn't? We may never know, but I've gotta give what she did overall a but on the runway, bitch. Oh my God. Oh my love this look. Love it, love it, love it. This is what I'm telling my children the Denim and Diamonds runway was. Like, would this not have been the perfect serve for that category? But this is also, of course, a really great place to take this brief to. Like, who would have thought? This look is so creative, on trend with Y2K, and very fashion forward overall. And when she hit the runway, I was very much thinking, oh, Sugar and Spice's older, much hotter sister is here. If beauty could kill, we'd all be dead. Probably. This look is hot. And next up, Salina, who in the challenge gets the opportunity to perform solo or to steal a comedy partner from one of the queens who's already paired up. She opts here to steal Mistress from Marcia's pair, and she and Mistress end up closing the comedy festival. And we actually see Salina get a really bad edit in the rehearsal that had me almost in tears. They were doing this crossfade thing of her telling the story that is ultimately her joke about the trade for like what feels like hours. I can only imagine how it felt to Michelle and Ali Wong. But the crazy thing is, at the end of it all, she turned that the hell out. She was hilarious. She ended up being succinct in her storytelling, and I think hit the different punchlines throughout what she was saying really well. I felt like I was on the phone listening to one of my good Judies recount a wild night of trade sessions, which I think is a really difficult form of comedy in general, and maybe even one more difficult to pull off on RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, almost never does someone succeed doing this, but Salina did it. This was hot. And over on the runway, during the episode, we hear her briefly mention that the look is an homage to her mother's journey over the US border. But she was evidently warned or urged not to tell the fuller, bigger story about the look on TV. This is what she wrote on Instagram about the look. No matter what the judges have to say or what we see tonight, tonight's runway is dedicated to this strong, beautiful woman right here, my mama. As many of you know, my mother passed away when she lost her 3rd battle to cancer. She beat it the first time at the end of 2020. I was with her one night when I asked her a question I never considered before. Mom, what was it like to get here from Honduras? There's a lot of controversy and hush-hush over trigger words such as border control or immigration, which apparently was the reason I was warned, not to talk about this on the runway. But the fact is that it's the reality of a lot of Latin American people and families. We get to share our stories too, even if it makes people uncomfortable. And as a note, if you go check out this photo on Instagram, you'll notice the caption has changed slightly sometime between publishing it and now when I'm recording this video. She removed removed the bit in it about being urged/warned not to talk about this on the runway. And she didn't say why she made that change, but I think we could speculate it could have something to do with production, NDAs, and the judges, because she apparently was pretty unhappy with how all of this went down. In an Instagram comment reply to a user who wrote, "The judges suck this season, we love you," she said, in parentheses, literally the worst, not the guest judges, the puppets. But anyways, out of respect for Salina and her mother, I won't be rating this look. Instead, I just want to extend my compliments, admiration, and praise to Salina for being brave enough to share her story and honoring her mother in such a beautiful way. And next up, we've got Mistress, who closed the show with Salina. Unlike Salina though, we kind of see Mistress flop. She, I think, made the mistake of doing the exact same thing that Salina did in the set, and it was just a little redundant to, after hearing Salina tell her story, hear Mistress tell another story that didn't differ that much or have as many funny moments. And as Michelle pointed out, it was very clear once she started and mentioned the 6'5" detail that she was setting up this one joke at the end. It was just like so many words for one joke of payoff. Instead of feeling like I was listening to one of my good friends spill the tea, it just kind of felt like, oh God, I just listened to this, now I've got to listen to it again? And considering the joke of what they were doing was that the two different trade sessions they were separately describing were about actually the same person, I think they maybe should have done a bit where only one of them told the story and they allowed more time for the other person to have little comedy relief moments. Kind of like how back on All Stars 2, Alyssa and Alaska did that bit where Alyssa would say something weird and then Alaska would just be like, bam. But I was bored. This was a Apparently though, a lot of Mistress's set was cut, and she had a lot to say, so I can't imagine how it would have been longer, but this is what she tweeted. "Aw, I think a lot of my stand-up in the challenge was cut out for being too inappropriate." Over on the runway though, Mistress has one of the most visually unique and interesting looks of the entire cast tonight. She's giving us a little Marilyn Monroe, but like Marilyn Monroe doll on the birthday cake that the president blows the candles out on, and the candles like singed her dress a little bit. She's giving camp, she's giving glamour, she's giving fashion, she's giving references. I really love this look. It's so smart and so entertaining. This is high drag. I love this look. And in fact, this look is so hot that it's burnt. And concerning placements this week, the win goes to Luxx and Loosey, which I think, considering what happens tonight, was absolutely the right decision. Because like honestly, I wasn't rolling on the floor laughing or laughing my socks off, but you know, they were the funniest two of the sets. I actually think it was a mistake on the part of the producers to ask these 7 queens to pair up for this, because only having 4 sets to go off of, I think really limited the potential of what could have been. For example, we saw how funny Sasha was when she snapped out of the bit with Anetra and kind of just started telling her own jokes. Imagine if she had had the creative freedom to do her own individual stand-up. And while I agree with the win tonight, the bottom 2 gagged me a little bit, for sure. We get Marcia, and Anetra. And Anetra in the bottom, yes, I agree with. But Marcia, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. She had a tall order, and I think she did just okay. Like, she had a really safe performance for what she was asked. And considering they gave the win to a pair of queens, because this after all was a duo challenge, it felt like they should have done a duo in the bottom and not split up Anetra and Sasha. And like, no, I didn't want to see Anetra or Sasha go home this episode. So from a production standpoint, I can understand why they didn't do that. But from a competition standpoint, it just feels wrong. The whole thing just felt very, we're ready to get rid of Marcia because this is when we plan to get rid of Marcia, and we don't have anything else to critique her on because she's already improved her makeup and is doing draggier hair and looks in general. So we're just gonna say she sucked and wasn't funny. That's just a theory. A drag. The lip sync that we got out of Marcia and Anetra though, oh my god, it was worth it for that, I guess, I suppose, right? Like, damn, they turned it out. They did Boss Bitch by Doja Cat, and this was a song that demanded an intensity, and they both delivered on that intensity. I was shook, literally watching this with my jaw agape. Like, I don't know what more either one of them could have done. They turned it out. And maybe Anetra won this by 1 or 2 hairs, but like if there was ever going to be a double Shantae on this season, like this should have been it. And after seeing this, it kind of tells me they're probably not gonna do a double Shantae on this season. There's not even many actual double Shantaes that I agree with, but like this should have been a double Shantae. And like if you're gonna leave Drag Race, what a hell of a note to go out on. Congratulations to Marcia on that lip sync, seriously. And finally, let's talk hottest hots. In the challenge, I'm gonna give it to Luxx Noir London. And on the runway, Mistress Isabelle Brooks. And I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest hots, and this week in the challenge, they've given it to Loosey LaDuca, and on the runway, Sasha Colby. And finally, I wanna give a huge thanks to today's video sponsor, Manscaped. Don't forget, you can shop manscaped.com/Bussy to get 20% off your order and free international shipping. I also want to give an extra special shout out to RuPaul's AT&T earrings and Ashley Brungart, Daniel Sandez, Felicia, Frankie, Jeffrey, Laura, Lisette, Louis Arbador, Matthew Burns, Matto, Pithy Kitty, Sailor, Sexy Winnie the Blue, Stephen Topher, Tyler Hendricks MD, Wheelie, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier. See you later. Love ya. Bye.